don't know if I believe in talent, and but I do believe in interest. If you're seriously interested in something, or if I am seriously interested in something, I'm able to learn this. Breaking the roots is things you only can do with machines, like things you can't do with a classical instrument. It happens quick. This life is fast, and the bitch is living that life. So it's it's hard to process everything and calm down. So yeah, there's a risk of like feeling the need of more, quicker, faster, better. Talking about the lazy producer who's making a collage out of things which other people have done, and it's just like this fast fashion of dance music, this energy of competition men sometimes have, maybe more than women, I don't know, is kind of like a sports, like this challenging way of exchanging knowledge and being like the know-it-all characters is like, but you can beat them, it's kind of like, it's a sport.
Okay, Jako, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, I mean, you've been doing amazingly the last few years. Like, it's incredible to see how your career's taken off. I got to know you when your music was really more experimental, ambient. When did you first begin exploring music that was more geared towards the dance floor?
I mean, obviously, this is my my first entrance point of making music was electronic dance music, because I was just raving when I was young, and this was just something I was generally interested in, and I wanted to understand how it works. So I guess that was the beginning of it. But in order to make music, I wanted to first understand how synthesizers worked. So I needed to experiment a lot, and hence maybe the music sounded a bit more experimental, to get to the edges of electronics and see what you can do with that up until you find something what you aesthetically like. I was really also into harsh noise and more aggressive music.
That really surprises me for some reason.
Yeah,
I think because your music now feels so delicate and
soft, maybe. Yeah,
soft. Not yeah. I mean, it's still like tough, but really like beautiful,
harmonic.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah, maybe because that is my interest now. That is something I'm trying to learn to understand a bit better. How to write complex melodies. How to get a certain emotion translated into a melody or into a chord progression without having the background of classical or jazz music or something like that. Since I'm self-taught, I have to find ways in order to learn, and I guess you learn the best through projects and collaborations and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to get to production in a second, but I was very interested to learn that you were actually training to become a nurse when you started to make music. How is dance music, or was dance music, a part of your life already at that time?
It was a big part of my life. It was like every weekend I wasn't working in the hospital, I was going on raves. I was still living in my hometown. I finished there the nursing school. I was missing a certain degree in order to study from the part of Germany I'm coming from. That was the reason why I actually moved to Berlin, because I got some funding, government funding. This nursing school was applying some students for, where they saw potential. And because I was missing this certain degree, I could choose between Hamburg and Berlin. And then I moved to Berlin because I went here already a couple of times to party. And I thought there's more
partying,
more partying, more to get, more to learn. And then I simultaneously did this. I studied this nursing management, worked a couple of days a month, like 12-hour shifts. So it sounded on paper like 7 to 10 days a month of work. Doesn't sound much, but like a 12-hour shift a couple of days in a row is heavy. But I still had enough time to discover dance music, club scene, and producing. And to that time when I moved, there was way more of like free parties, empty buildings, artists kind of collectives squatting houses and doing weird, crazy shit. And that was a great opportunity to meet people and to ask a lot of questions related to what I was interested to that time, like understanding, I don't know, XDJs or CDJs or, I don't know, there were people with hardware studios. I could just like sometimes you're just like walking through this house, there's a party, and then you see like there's an open studio, you just enter and you're like, I'm sorry, can I ask a question? Like, what is this thing? How does that work? Or just this general vibe of artistic minds was sucking me really in. And it was, a great way of learning for free, which is now doesn't feel like this anymore, but also maybe because I grew and I'm like maybe more separating from this lifestyle.
Oh, that's interesting. You feel that it's not as open, like there's more gatekeeping around?
Maybe not gatekeeping, but there is not much of those spaces anymore. At least that I don't know them. I'm also like, as I say, like, oh, maybe the younger generation knows those places. But it was like the street I was living, there were like 3 of those squatted houses where just people were doing ateliers and exhibitions and parties and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes you just want to go and buy some cigarettes or get some dinner. But then I was passing a house, I was listening to some music. I was like, where's that crazy music coming from? And I was just like entering, and suddenly you're in this like, whoa, what is happening? This shit is not, at least I don't see it happening anymore. Yeah. And I think, that's a big shame.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're really like a self-starter. Like you take a lot of initiative and you're really curious and you just like stick yourself in a way that seems to have like really paid off. Obviously
it did pay off, and it sounds like a kind of like a compliment you're giving me, but actually it's just I'm only doing the things I'm interested in, and I have a hard time learning things I'm not interested in. That's maybe the downside. And this was just something I really wanted to, like, I was sucked into that, and I really wanted to understand, and that's why I was able to learn that.
I was reading an interview where you described working in the hospital and you were caring for somebody who's on a ventilator, but then also in your breaks, like reading these synthesis books
while I was working, because I had to sit. It was like this room, and this person was in the bed, and it was like a body pumped full with morphine, and there was a breathing machine, and everything you had to do. I mean, it sounds easy, but actually it's a lot of responsibility. But it's like every half an hour or 20 minutes you have to go there and check some parameters. It's a lot of machine work. Give something else, give some food, move their body, check just parameters of the body and documenting it, and you need to stay awake somehow, because it's kind of, there is no conversation to make, there is no real interaction. It sounds a little harsh, but it was more like a shell than anything. But obviously you still have respect, and you know there's like a human inside. It's just a drugged human. But in order to stay awake and fresh in your mind, you need to stimulate your mind as well. If not, you fall asleep on the table, and you may make your work not as responsible as you should. Because 12 hours is a long time.
Very long. And
you can't just eat sweets all the time and drink Red Bull all the time. So I was like always bringing a new hobby. And I remember I started with carving, and it started actually with an avocado.
A pit.
Yeah, a pit of an avocado, and like just a bit of a like a knife to do bread. And then it developed into like soft wood and real tools. But then I was like cutting
like a carving station in the corner.
That was probably not the best idea to have in the hospital, or like to have at this patient's house. And at one point I was like cutting my fingers all the time, so it wasn't hygienic anymore. So I had to stop, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to bring any of my other hobbies to work. Yeah. And then it was like a little synth or a manual.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, when you talked about learning synthesis, and I'm also speaking as somebody who like I've never quite like I've tried to have modular synths. I feel like my brain doesn't quite like get it in a way, or maybe I'm just not patient enough, but you make it seem so easy and effortless. Like it's a matter of just applying yourself and reading the right books. But do you think that some minds are just more naturally gifted at grasping hardware?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it's all interest. I also don't really believe in talent. I mean, some people maybe have a good sounding voice, so that maybe can be a gift or like a talent. Some people have like a natural feel for rhythm, but that also can be cultural. I don't know, or like where you grow up, and if your other family members are making music already, maybe these are gifts more. I don't know if I believe in talent, and but I do believe in interest. If you're seriously interested in something, or if I am seriously interested in something, I'm able to learn this. if I don't have a learning disability or something. I don't know, I heard this sentence a couple of times because sometimes I do give workshops for like Flinter people or plus, and people sometimes say, I just don't think my brain is made for that. But maybe it's also the teacher or the books or the way of how it's explained to you. But I think in the age of like YouTube, where you have like a video, some fun elements, music behind, images, or everything stimulated at the same time, I think it's quite easy to learn. And maybe I was in a good position as well to have I was an intern at Schneiders, and I had the possibility to every day train myself and just try out new things. And maybe it's something more like not having a barrier, like not thinking I am not able to learn this is also complicated. Maybe saying like, I just do it, like let's go.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing.
Yeah, maybe it's more a mindset thing than a talent or like a brain, how do you say, condition.
Yeah, condition. Yeah, it's interesting because you're not the first person who I've spoken to recently who I feel is very successful in their careers, but thinks that they have no talent, or that talent isn't even really an innate quality. It's more just like a matter of applying yourself and like working hard.
And privilege.
And privilege, yes.
Because if you're interested and you have parents who can pay for this education, then I would have become something completely different, you know. Yeah, and maybe if you don't have a privilege, that's your privilege, because then when you get the opportunity, you go fully for it, because there's nothing else to do, and you have this one chance, so you want to take it. So maybe you give more energy than if you have all the options in the world. Maybe today I want to be a ballet dancer, and then your parents pay for your ballet school, but then 2 years later you decide I want to do breakdance or street art, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I want to talk a little bit about modular synths, your approach to modular. You said that every module has its own philosophy. There's always a designer operating behind it with a concept, producing what is essentially a work of art, which is very true of any instrument, but it is especially true of modular synths. Is there one designer whose philosophy has really resonated with you and shaped your approach to how you make music?
Oh, that's difficult to answer because there's so many great ones. It's like, do you have this one artist you admire and who's like you can always go back? But probably, out of respect, I must say Dieter Döpfer, because he was just the father of this format Eurorack, and he's the reason why we are all able to afford a modular synthesizer. Because before there was like Moon Modular, Moog Modular, and these were like 5U units. And very expensive, and he made it kind of like inexpensive because he wanted to be able to play with a modular synth, but he couldn't afford the Moon or Moog ones, and that's why, because he was an engineer, he made it possible for himself in a smaller footprint, and I think that made it for all of us accessible. So I have to say he changed probably, and he's like this forward-thinking person. And now there's even another person from a similar area of Germany, is AE Modular, and it's even a smaller unit with tiny cables. And so I think it's even a step further, like doing it even smaller and cheaper, without being snitchy and stealing ideas and copying with chips made in your own factory. Behringer. Yeah, so I think that's quite cool. But yeah, there are so many brands or companies.
Yeah.
And I do love this punk vibe of just DIY in the basement of your mom or in the garage of your, I don't know, house, and just starting a company and going to Super Booth and presenting this one product. And you see this, and it may in the first glance it looks a little cheap or looks like kind of like basic. But then when you go and they explain the idea behind, you're mind blown, because some people are so creative, like thinking completely different in music making. That only everyone can benefit from that.
Yeah.
Talking crap.
But there also is something quite punk about, I know I'm like speaking out of my depth right now, but like a lot of people who will put their own like designs online, or they'll make things like open source so that you can use their circuits and like alter them.
Yeah, like mutable instruments did that a lot. They were doing everything open source, and now everyone is copying their ideas.
Yeah,
but they're totally easy with that. I guess that's extremely cool and very community driven, which is the modular scene in general. It's a nice scene where you exchange a lot of knowledge. It's just cute.
Kind of like what you were talking about with when you first moved to Berlin, and you felt like it was very like open sharing. Yeah. So you said that you like to break the rules, but in order to break the rules, you need to kind of know what the rules are. How long do you feel like it took you to master the rules of synthesis? And like, how would you define what they are?
I mean, there's much more to learn. I'm not nearly there where I want to be, but I guess in order to break the rules, you need to just understand the basics of it, of at least your system you got at home, and then you can always try to break out and get surprised yourself, but controlled. I think that's a great feeling when you can kind of blind patch your system, dry, no electricity, and then you switch it on. You're like, woo, exactly what I wanted it to sound. And then you spice it up with new, I don't know, ideas, maybe one new module you have in another rack, and you try to, break it up a little, maybe do like some feedback patches or something, but something what is against the classical way of patching the synthesizer. I guess there are some basic rules of patching, but it's unlimited capacity to try out new things. But in order of like breaking the rules and knowing the rules, like musically rules, I'm not talking about those. I have way too little knowledge about like classical music. In order to break certain rules, I really try to learn the rules there and try to stick to these rules. And that's maybe fits to what we're saying in the beginning, that maybe my music sounds harmonic and musical, because I'm trying to implement that a little more and not just do bleeps and blobs from the modular.
Yeah, interesting.
Things of breaking the rules is things you only can do with machines, like things you can't do with a classical instrument is something I like to achieve, like a certain speed and rhythm breaking, because you can change your pattern quick if you program it nice and you have like your LFOs on certain time signatures and length. You can do like IDM-ish stuff no drummer can do, even though they're like jazz studied I don't know how long. They're not able to do this physically without help of electricity and some gear.
Yeah.
So I do like to play with that a little, just to, I don't know, try to find something we may haven't heard from. We have heard everything already yet, but just to excite the ear a little.
Yeah. I wanted, and I feel part of me feels ick about this, but I did want to talk about just like gender for a second. And I know that there's, right, it's like most, like if I was interviewing a guy who was like using modular synths.
How does it feel to be a guy in this male-dominated?
Yeah.
Do you feel lost? Is there too many guys? Do you feel seen? Is it that why you have your pink hair?
Okay, but the reason why I ask is because, I mean, I have an experience of like being tokenized in the music scene as a woman, and I was doing an interview with Lady Starlight, who's I know you've worked with before. She's like big into modular synths, and she's recorded some videos of her doing modular stuff that have just received so many hate comments.
Like what?
She did this. It was like a fact against the clock video. And
I saw that one, yeah.
Long nails. And there were just people like being like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, look at her nail. You can't actually use a modular synth like that.
I can use a modular synth with chopsticks.
Yeah. And I know that maybe it's because she's like very high femme presenting, that it's like almost like she feels like she's had to like
fulfill the role.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like, as someone who's like a producer who's more technically inclined, do you ever feel like you're like put under the microscope a bit?
I mean, bring it to me. Like, focus, zoom in. I'm not intimidated by that somehow. I think it can be uncomfortable. But if you know your shit, like it doesn't bother me if you think, like, there were a couple of comments like, oh, she's trans, it's a dude, or I don't know, ghost produced, or yes, I don't care. Like, if that helps you writing that comment, go for it. And I think in the modular world, because they are more like men, or like how do you say this politically correct, male red humans or people, it can be easier as a woman because you stick out, but also it can be you can feel kind of excluded. But these are all options, and for me, the option I chose was to get into this group of people, and this energy of competition. Men sometimes have, maybe more than women. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like a sports, like this challenging way of exchanging knowledge and being like the know-it-all characters. Is like, but you can beat them. It's kind of like, it's a sports, and I don't want to talk it down, because I'm sure there are people who are very good in their discipline, and but they are not that outgoing and not that cheeky and bossy or something. I don't know how to describe this.
You're very confident in what you do, and I think the reason why I bring it up is because I do feel that women have had to like insert themselves into the history of electronic music a little bit more. Like, I was thinking about that book Pink Noise. Do you know? Like, it's about like Delia Derbyshire, then Suzanne Ciani, and all these women who have been involved in the electronic music scene but have been like marginalized from it. But I'm happy that it hasn't, or perhaps we're at a stage where it's like not something that's
at least affecting us or me.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your time at SchneiderSladen. I don't know, you're not working there anymore.
And I'm not working
but you were there for a number of years. So how did that experience start, and what were some of the greatest takeaways from being there?
I mean, this is a hub for modular stuff. I had the great opportunity to every day do patches, and also I had to expose myself. So, because I was working in the showroom, and when I started, I wasn't obviously as knowledgeable as I am now about all this stuff, and there were like not as many brands as they are now, but it's still enough to be a bit afraid of maybe getting started. And also I had no money to buy any of the modules, so I had to find a way to try them out and to learn them for free. That's why I started working there, actually.
Okay. So you feel like when you started working there, you were already like, you knew quite a bit, but I
was already able to make tracks, and I had a mini studio, but I had no modular synth. But I knew this is what I need in order to make the sound I wanted to make, because I was coming to the edge of my gear, and I knew I need more modulation sources in order to modulate certain sounds to get this certain effect I wanted to hear. So that was the first major benefit, and that there was all the resources of stuff I was allowed to use. Then the exposure, like I was working in the showroom, meaning giving people the headphones, maybe saying, this is an output module, this is an oscillator, you patch this from here to there. But I also, while I was doing this, I was learning about it. Means often I reached a point where I didn't know the answer. Means I had to ask somebody or read it up quick, the manual, like go to the computer, check it out, and then go back. So that was forcing me to learn very quick, and to explain it. Also, I think helped me being now on stage, because I'm not sure if I would have ever chosen that route, because it feels quite naked to be on stage and to present and making loud sounds everyone can hear. I'm sure you know, because you're also making music, it can be quite scary to show what you've done in private to an audience, and the fear of failing and self-doubt and all this kind of stuff, which comes into play to that. But I think this training of like being okay with not knowing everything, but still presenting something, taught me a lot in this shop. And obviously the workers there and all the co-workers, which especially like Thomas Kircher, he's called, he taught me a lot about the philosophy of Eurorec, the history of Eurorec, and patches.
like, did you quit nursing school to work at SchneiderSladen, or what was your trajectory?
I didn't quit the nursing school. I finished it. By the end, I hated it. So I was already finished with nursing school when I moved to Berlin, but then I was studying nursing management. I don't know how this is like properly translated, but it's Pflegedienstleitung. I think it's nursing management. And it was like a 2.5 or 3 years of theoretically, and then I had to do a trainee program, and this was like office work. And I hated everything about it, but I had to do it in order to just finish that shit. And I was so burned out because it's hard work, plus all this office logic, which I didn't get into my mind. Like, why do we have to put everything into a digital device, print it out, put it in a folder, put it in the, like, all this was like, why? The system was fucked, and is probably still the same, because we're living in Germany and they do like their kind of paper stuff.
They do what they paper stuff.
I don't get it. And all this kind of like coming in time, being really responsible, being nice on the phone, even if you don't feel it and you think like, you stupid piece of shit, just shut the fuck up. But you can't say this because it's like an official work. That was like putting me so much into a box. And I'm very expressive and direct, honest. I have a hard time hiding emotions. I could work on that, but I don't. But
yeah, bad thing. It's good for being a musician.
yeah, maybe. And that's why maybe I ended up in this, because this was like something I'm able to do long term. I could be a nurse in a right circumstance, but just a nurse, but not this kind of like leading position in an office with all the numbers and with like far away from the humans. I transitioned from there to. I started working in some electronic music school where I was giving Ableton beginners workshops because I was doing a crash course there because I needed to understand how compressors and like mixing works. I was already able to make tracks, but I wasn't able to, outside of the hardware, I wasn't able to do them like arrangement and like this Lego building track in a, I was able to record them in a recorder or leave them in the machines to perform them live, but I needed to learn that. So I did like this crash course, and then afterwards they asked me if I want to work there. So this was my entrance point in the making money with music. But then at one point this person turned shit, didn't pay anymore, was getting personally too involved into like all sorts of shit of Berlin. And then I just escaped and started working at Schneiders. And actually I did wanted to study sound design, mixing, mastering, but the budget was just not there. So I thought I'm going to do it the other way and just start working somewhere and learn my own way. I will find the people who will be able to teach me, and it worked out.
Yeah. SchneiderSladen ended up opening quite a few doors for you. I understand that's how you ended up signing to Mute Records.
Yeah, possibly, yes.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Miller was like a frequent client.
Maybe it wasn't that. It was maybe more the video of, all plays part in that. SchneiderSladen is a pillar of that. But there's other pillars, and that was Corona and YouTube and video kind of stuff. So there was Hoshi and his team of electronic beats. I caught some attention of some managers, booking agencies. I think Corona was playing into that as well, because people were a lot in front of their computers because they couldn't go to parties, they couldn't connect and live this community, so they had to be a bit more online. So this video was hitting strong, and then this Fact magazine thing where I was doing the jam, the patch notes.
Okay.
And I think after that, maybe the management of Depeche Mode and Martin Gore saw this, and they spoke to Daniel and said, like, don't you know her from the shop? Can you may ask her?
I was watching this video that you're talking about, and it almost, the way you explain it, it's like it's so logical. Like, it's almost more like you have this workflow, and it's not, like you describe how sometimes you even will just read manuals to get ideas for tracks. I think it's just like a way, I'm such a like, I'm more of like an intuitive worker that I wouldn't necessarily think about that. But can you explain a bit like,
I guess
you really get your inspiration from your connection with your tools?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's also blocking me sometimes because I have this panic in mind. What is if electricity stops and what am I doing then? How do I express myself then? I probably have to go back to paper and pen, start drawing or something.
Hopefully that won't happen anytime soon.
But still, it's a dependency on electricity. And I felt that when I was in Vietnam and the electricity wasn't that stable. I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do then? But anyway.
Interesting.
So I guess whenever somebody is releasing a piece of gear, they have a thought behind. And obviously, you can intuitively learn that. And I do that as well. Sometimes I'm just like, I see something, I understand it from the front panel, and I start to play around with that, do a couple of tracks or just melodies or whatever, just something for myself, which will never be released. But then at one point I'm getting stuck in that, and then I'm pulling out the manual and I see, oh, there is some depth. I never thought about this. And it's quite interesting to see what the developer had an idea for an idea in mind, and to learn from that, to take this as a source of inspiration. And I guess how to translate that maybe to some DJ. Sure, you can just go to a shelf and just grab records and go to the gig and groove it out. But you can also try to dig in your own record collection again, check the B-sides, try to build a story or something. I don't know, maybe this, or as a classical instrument player, maybe you can just take something intuitively and play it by ear, and you may have this natural talent or ability to hear what's sounding nice, and you do make your own art out of it, or you just learn the instrument properly before and learn how to read notes, hit the tone and tune it. And there's just different approaches, and I think everything is right if you just want to make art and be creative and without any pressure. There's no ways of doing anything wrong or right. I think electronic music is highly technical, and maybe that's again just my interest, and I do like to do the double functions, be quick. I love being able to just not really think. I have it all in my muscle memory, for example, with all the electrons. It's just like I know exactly where to. I don't even need to look at it. I can. But that's just my kink. I do like to have this. I like to be quick, and I like to be, have a depth in a menu and being able to learn that quick. And it's just my hobby. So I don't think that's a certain technique.
Well, so you mentioned Vietnam, and maybe now is a nice time to talk about your debut album on mutes. So that just came out a couple of months ago.
Tet 41.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Tell me about what does the name mean?
Tet is the Vietnamese name for Chinese Lunar New Year. And I was there last year with my mom and entourage to escape Berlin and all this overwhelming touring lifestyle and hedonistic lifestyle. So I was there for, I think, almost 2 months. Brought a couple of synths, and it was around the time of the Lunar New Year, so I somehow automatically got inspired by the vibe of this fest. And
was it your first time to Vietnam?
Yes.
Okay. And this is...
Oh no, actually no, I was there quick for a gig of another artist.
Okay, that doesn't really count.
That doesn't really count. It was like a proper holiday now.
Yeah. And so your mother was born in Vietnam.
My mom was born in Laos, or Lao, as you say, and but her parents are Vietnamese. Okay. They traveled, I think, by feet during the war. Okay. And there's a lot of Vietnamese people in Laos. Yeah.
I mean, you said that in the past you haven't really wanted to talk so much about your heritage because it can feel tokenizing.
And I don't know, it was maybe also young me being a bit more, trying to be more private and, I don't know, not opening up too much. But
I mean, as this album is really about Vietnam, what were your experiences like, just like connecting to your heritage in this really in-depth way for 2 months?
I was hoping I'm able to speak a bit more Vietnamese after the end of the trip and get a bit more of like culture in and understand much more. And I do understand certain ways of why my family is as my family is. But in the end, I was still this naive level of tourist saying xin chào and cảm ơn, like hello and thank you. I'm able to order food without egg and meat, and dairy anyway doesn't exist. So that was all I learned. But yeah, I was hoping that the connection with my mom and like her explaining me all the things, which she did. I was hoping that I'm able to learn a bit more Vietnamese, because maybe my sister was able to do that when she traveled with her. But I figured the muscles in my mouth are really not trained for that. There's very little vocabulary, but so much more of movement needed in order to get a certain sweep or pronunciation right. And you can do so many things wrong that I was taking a step back and just accepted that it's okay to be this naive tourist, even though I spent this time and I came with a different intention of like connecting a bit more, understanding a bit more, but just accepting that I'm also German. You know, I'm just born and raised here. That is my culture. I have this influence of these other cultures in my family. But yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's it actually.
No,
nothing more to say.
It's a beautiful album though, because there's so many field recordings of people speaking Vietnamese and like the sounds of the streets, and it's like it really creates this sense of place. Like I can imagine. I've never been to Vietnam, but yeah, I can imagine a bit what it was like.
Yeah, I do love though that there's like communist flags everywhere, and people are all similar height, all black hair. Bodies are all similar, like male or female, just looks the same. T-shirt, trousers. The food has a big variety for our taste buds, but in the end it's like a similar dish repeating. And I do kind of like this unity feel, and this loudness, dirty streets. It has a charm. And during Tet 41, this like Lunar New Year, there's a lot of festive kind of like, there's like music, there's flowers, there's colors, there's rituals, different smells from burning stuff, different dishes. So it was very inspiring, and this happiness of this time of the year, similar to Christmas here or New Year here, was somehow taken over. And I think that's somehow I decided in the end to make this as a concept. I want to take all this as a postcard home to here, and to continue processing that and maybe still learning from that. That's why I also try to use more Vietnamese words and try to collect those memories into sound and melodies.
Yeah, no, it's also a nice return to this like free form, more experimental format that I guess you were doing a little bit like in the past.
And it also translates to what I want to learn a bit more now, because I try to research a little about, I don't know, Vietnamese scales and rhythms, instruments. So I learned a bit more of that and used more pentatonic scales, stripped it a little down. So that was also helping me on the other side of like the learning process.
Wait, so are pentatonic scales used a lot in Vietnamese music?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in this Lunar New Year music, it's mainly C major, happy vibes.
Wow. Well, you're such a versatile artist, and you have experience making music for a lot of really different formats. Like right now, you are experiencing recognition for like dance floor stuff, but you've made scores for dance performances, and you've performed alongside classical ensembles. You've done AV shows. Is there one context that you prefer more than others?
Yes, definitely. I do love working with other people. I do love collaborations, and especially interdisciplinary collaborations, where there's not just this one person being the star of the show. It's like the show which is the star, and the whole end result. And you all are just a small part of it. Also, the music is just a small part of it, and I'm in the background. These are the best. It's just this feeling, the thrill you get when you all shit your pants together before the show, and you're like doubting all together, and you're like, was it actually a good idea to go so wild, or is it stupid, or are we like collectively shaming ourselves now? But then afterwards it all comes together and it does make sense, and people stand up and applause and maybe have tears in their eyes, and then you're like, fuck, okay, that was a good idea. And this collective feeling of creating something is just killer. And I think that's my favorite way of working. Still in performance art, still live, because this, which I never thought that this would be something I would do in my life, like performing live something. But I think that is my preferred way of doing art with other people. The more disciplines, the better. Like having somebody who's doing crazy stage outfits, stage design, light tech, but all highly creative people, not just somebody who's not taking this shit serious, like people who really are into that because that's their passion, it's all they have in their life. And right now I'm dreaming and planning already in my head about a project for next year, which will bring all this together. Like all the people I work with, the dance collective Infinitum, which are like the dancers. I don't know if you've seen the Arte thing in Kraftwerk for Tresor 30.
I saw that live, yeah.
Oh, you went there to the show even?
Yeah, with your score.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And then also we did another one for like filming during Corona, but it's a similar thing to bring them. And then I have this collaboration with the techno ensemble. And I would love to bring them together to make it, have electronic music, classical music, jazz, classical dance, ballet dances, but also contemporary dancers, self-taught dancers, light people from Berghain, like all this, and I guess I get thrilled when I think about planning this and that we all gather together. There's this one vision we all aim, and we, there's no lead. The only lead is the idea and the aesthetic, the artistic aesthetic.
Yeah, I am very similar to you. Like there's so much, I don't know, like connection and power that comes from working with people in that way and then having it happen. But so then how does it feel to be touring so much as a DJ and really having that almost be like the focus for the last few years?
I'm very grateful to have this privilege and the opportunities I'm given to travel the world, meet almost only nice people, from drivers to artist care to like the promoters and the creative people booking and curating everything. It's only good people, it feels like. In between, obviously, there's some business people. But I'm also overwhelmed with that because it happens quick. This life is fast. And the bitch is living that life. So it's it's hard to process everything and calm down. So yeah, there's a risk of like feeling the need of more, quicker, faster, better. And then there is this risk of me, there's a potential risk that I compare myself to those men which are tall and big and strong physically, which are able to take, 15 gigs a weekend, and you're like, you also want to learn, how far can I go? How far can I push this as a challenge? But then I definitely realized, stop here, stop there. There was the first 2 years of touring, I remember I was like puking a lot at the airport. Wow. My body was just saying no. Like the lack of sleep, the different diet, me having like restriction in certain diets, so I'm like skipping sometimes dishes or just eating fillers but not nutritions. And this is like something you have to learn without a tour manager or without a guide. This is like something you have to learn on your own because you're traveling alone, and everyone is nice. Obviously, everyone wants to make you a great time, so there's a lot of hedonistic things involved, which you also have to be able to understand, to navigate through, to listen to yourself, to find your own ways of centering. So that was the overwhelming part. And I think I got over that. I lost track of friends for a while and family. And and then this and that, work so hard. But I mean, if everything has happened so fast, it's like maybe just 2 years, but 2 years were like, and then at one point you're like, your soul arrives and you're like, oh, I have to maybe process all this. And then I realized, okay, I need to set focus. Like last year I said, I need to set focus on friends and family, skip weekends of working to actually be there for my friends. And then this year I said, okay, more sports, more paperworks. Sports I managed, paperworks, nope. So next year.
Next year's paperwork, yeah.
And now I feel, after like touring now for a while, all this, also with the help of like more experienced people, that I have new things, new fears unlocked, and new insecurities and new challenges. And just recently I learned, which is still overwhelming for me, that I'm not that incognito anymore. Like, people start to know my face and recognize me, which can be fun when you're like with friends somewhere drinking and somebody comes like, hey, I'm sorry, are you? And then your friends are like, eh. But it can be pretty, it can take you out of your comfort zone when you're somewhere where you feel very safe. And I had a couple of situations where I felt very safe and I was just be 100% me without thinking of putting any mask on or something. And then people recognized me and I was like, oh shit. Or like, sometimes you're like crying somewhere and then somebody comes and just wants to speak to you and wants to give you nice words and say how much they appreciate your art and stuff, but you really don't feel it because you're just fucking crying. But then you have to somehow get through that or just be very honest to them so that they go away. But obviously it's always nice when people have nice things to say. But yeah, that's something I'm learning right now, like distinguishing a little emotions and maybe not being that open all the time. A bit more reserved maybe, which I'm not, I don't know, you probably know that as well. I have a hard time with hiding myself. I'm just this.
Yeah, I can imagine like being like suddenly having to be hyper aware of like how like people are seeing you. Yeah. How do you see, or what would you like for your future in terms of like what do you want your musical career to look like?
I don't know about my career. I don't know how long I enjoy this as well. Like you never know. I'm impulsive, and maybe at one point I'm like, fuck this shit and fuck all those scenes and the people in the bubble. It can happen.
Nursing.
But what I know, what I want to reach, or what I'm aiming right now is this like massive patch at home, because I have bought a new case for all the synths, which I had like spread around at different cases of like, friends or some spare case. I bought now a Döpfer bass, how do you call it? Low-cost bass. So it's like an angled Eurorack case, and I filled it up. I'm just waiting for the mixer to arrive, and then I'm going to put another one on top because I'm earning money and I'm just spending it on gear. And I'm thinking about, and what I want to aim is like this massive patch, this like master patch, which gives me a lot of like creativity over time, but in a certain aesthetic, like having everything from like complex rhythms to complex melodies, being able to improvise for a long period of time, where I feel like an octopus and get this muscle memory in, and it never gets boring. Like this is what I'm wishing for winter.
Well, I wish that for you too.
Yeah, thank you. I just think until winter. I don't think until my near future or something.
Yeah. Who's really inspiring you right now?
I think I'm inspired the most by these jams.
You're doing Circle of Life and Wiesenweg.
Circle of Life, Wiesenweg, Store Lab, obviously, which is like a...
So these are all just maybe for people who don't know. It's you get together with other live hardware musicians for these like long form hardware only improvised.
Yeah, like 8 hours plus.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think this is the most inspiring because you can't prepare for that. I mean, unless you bring a computer or you prepare sequences in your sequencer, but I'm not this type. I'm taking it as they write it in the email, in the offer. They say like, you don't need to prepare anything. Let's just go with the flow. Everything is allowed. That's my favorite type of jam. Like Store, I think is pretty cool with that. Speedy J is just like whatever. Yeah, comfortable with everything. It's just a G move to be like this.
Well, 8 hours live is really long.
You're allowed to take breaks if you want, but I can't. I want to stay in this. I just go quick and have a bite of something, go to the toilet, maybe drink a beer and come back, or bring this beer to stage, smoke hidden under the table. It's sometimes easier to stay in the zone than leaving it and coming back, because then it's harder to hear again. But sometimes also a break makes sense. Maybe I'm talking just crap. But yeah, I think this is what inspires me the most right now. And I think this is a great way also to communicate with those dudes, because often people say women communicate way more about emotions and express much more and check in, like, how you feeling? You okay? You need anything? Maybe that doesn't happen that much in this man-dominated world of electronic music. But you can feel a different sort of communication in those jams. There may be just a quick eye or just a quick, like, micro expression. You still able to read, but you understand if somebody's pushing the fader, you understand if somebody's trying something out, and you just take yours out, which is in the similar frequency range, to let them have their bass line come in, or you hear, is there another kick? So I take my kick out, and or you know what I mean? Like somebody's like playing this melody a little long, maybe it's time to put another one in to lead that now. So it's a very nice way of communicating with the language of music, electronic music. And I think that is very inspiring and inspiring in like other aspects of life, like communication, for example, and to get to know people without having actual communication, because you just make music together and you see how sensitive somebody is, or how ego-driven, or it's a very interesting thing to do, and I think I get inspired the most by this.
Yeah.
And also I have this solo jammy things with Baka, for example. We did something at Berghain in Säule where we just improvised and we slayed.
Yeah. And I guess it's worth noting that he put out your first record
on Leisure System. Yeah. There was a couple of like digital things before I'm not really proud of, and some of them disappeared, but this was the first serious thing which also got attention, and made me feel and put me into this professional world for sure. But yeah, I think since he's this artist who's doing like a lot of these emotional chord progressions and this euphoric trance peak lead things, and I'm also tending towards like emotional stuff, but broken rhythm, and him also coming from the UK, loving IDM and influenced by Otteka and probably FX Twin and all this kind of stuff. It is it really, like, I feel very satisfied making music with him and without major preparation. And this is why I'm getting inspired by those jams, because it's just pure, honest, natural, and it can go shit. There's this risk. It keeps me interested.
Okay, what are you working on right now? What's next on the horizon?
I mean, right now I'm trying to sort my life a little bit. Especially my paperworks.
That's been a theme that's come up many times in this interview. So your paperwork.
It's really there, and I really have to work on that. And like sorting also like some of my emotional life. I'm changing some routines I may got stuck in, because as I tried to explain before, this life is quite quick, and often you forget about different aspects of life which are actually carrying you through life, which are way more important than just art and work. I mean, art obviously is very important for all of us, but there's also basic roots we have to follow a little bit in order to stay healthy and keep a healthy relation with our surroundings. So this I'm trying to work out a little bit, and I think it will take some time. And apart from that, there's projects I started. I'm getting very excited about the summer jams with those crews. For example, this collaboration I started with Tommy for 7 for his album, which is kind of like new, a new collaboration, somebody I never worked before with, which is quite interesting, making a tune together. And for now, I just have the vision for this project next year, but it probably will take a lot of preparation, a lot of communication in order to make this happen. So I guess this will be the next focus, writing the music for that. In collaboration with all the other people spread all over the world. It's a big project. I want to do a good job, and I'm very excited about. So I want to put all my energy into that.
Great. It's a lot.
So, and one other thing I just recently learned, which I think I want to focus in the near future, like this winter, is so there's this person I met in Berghain many years ago. She's great. We always hang out, and we never met in private. We only meet in Berghain, then we have these intense conversations. And she is working, she's a social worker, and she works in a school in somewhere, Hellersdorf or whatever, somewhere in the east. And she taught me that there is something called AfD techno, which is the right-wing party in Germany. and they have their tool now in order to get young people, and it's called fucking AfD techno. And this is what the kids are listening in the place she's working. And
but what makes it AFD?
The things they say. They do like this kind of like TikTok thing and singing on top of like hard techno, and everything they sing about is extremely right-wing ideology.
Wow.
And that's fucked up because techno is the opposite, comes from the opposite. So she was asking me if I can help her communicating that and doing some, some way of getting this rid of their minds and erasing this type of music of their free time. So somehow, we're planning to do a class and a little bit of history of techno, maybe, and making music and making it kind of cool that you don't need all this like Hitler parodies in there. You can just be cool without this words in there.
That's so terrifying. I guess on a closing note, you have something you're promoting right now, Air Texture. It's something that you have curated. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this was the first time me curating some sort of compilation. It felt very natural. I was allowed to choose any topic, and I chose the topic that I picked, the people who are mainly making music with hardware, to just give it a light. It's, I guess, a little bit more of an effort to make music with gear, to invest money, your private money into gear. It's dedication, and I wanted to, cherish that. And even though there are some producers which are not making music only with hardware, or they maybe just have like one piece of gear, but they take it serious. So yeah, I wanted to use this as a platform also to put some light on the very end of that industry, the people who are building, engineering those products, speaking about the gear they were using and blah, blah, blah. So this is how it happened. And I had to stop myself to add more people into that compilation because there was obviously at one point no capacity anymore for more, but I found myself again in this loop or spiral of how many people are actually talented in this and how nice it is to be in this scene. And I was hoping that maybe with this, I had that awareness of like that you can make music also with hardware, not only with computer and sample packs, that this will inspire more people to go a bit further and take the money you earn also to spend it in the same scene, like with buying gear, buying records, and so on. And maybe pushing a bit more to like newer sounds and not just taking something somebody maybe has recorded with their gear and put it in a sample pack and you just take the loop and maybe
to be a little bit more innovative.
Maybe, a little bit more innovative and giving a little bit more back to the scene in order to like use gear, seeing the roots where this music is coming from the gear, which was drifting, coming actually from like maybe the black scene, but also this gear is produced in Asia. So it's also kind of like a little bit Asian techno, like Asian technology is the source of what we are using now to make music, like 909 and 303s are coming from Japan.
True.
And to just get a little bit back in history on that, not me teaching or praying anything, but that it's, and also without hating on software producers. There are great software producers doing crazy things with Fruity Loops, Ableton and whatever. But talking about the lazy producer who's making, a collage out of things which other people have done. And it's just like this fast fashion of dance music. Let's go back to slow production. And maybe that's why also this took so many years until it was finished, because we started already early putting this thing together, but it took ages up until it was now finally is going to released. To just slow it down a little bit and respect the source of this music.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to listen. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you.
It's been a
for
pleasure.
having me and making me feel comfortable.
Yes.
And you.
Shout out Eli.